Welcome to our webinar on owner-trained service dogs in British Columbia, Canada. The information is current as at February 8, 2018. We have made every effort to provide accurate information. However, there may still be errors and omissions. The webinar is presented to you by Service Dog Training Institute.ca. Here's the first page of our website to give you an idea of what it looks like. My name is Donna Hill. I have a degree in zoology, a Bachelor of Education, and am a certified heritage interpreter. We offer in-person training in the Nanaimo area and the rest of BC and globally through our website and webcam. Here's the agenda for this webinar. We're going to start with definitions. People often confuse service dogs, therapy dogs, and emotional support dogs, and they're all very different. We're going to cover what is typical service dog behavior, how a service dog gets certified in British Columbia, what types of tasks a service dog can do for you. We'll do a demonstration with my dogs Jessie and Lucy to show some actual tasks, and I'll provide some public access information and laws. Let's start with some definitions. So a service dog or an assistance dog is a dog that has specific training to do tasks that mitigate her handler's disabilities. It's considered a medical device for her handler, like a hearing aid, a glucometer, or a wheelchair. A service dog can be used in places where the public can go, but pet dogs cannot. The IAADP, or the International Association of Assistance Dog Partners, recommends a minimum of 120 hours of specialized training in public places, and that applies to both organizational trained or owner trained dogs. In British Columbia, it's highly recommended that the dog be certified. What criteria does a team need to qualify as a service dog team? The handler must have a chronic disability that affects their life, and a BC doctor or nurse practitioner is willing to fill out a form to verify that. The tasks the dog does must be trained, they cannot be natural, and the tasks must specifically mitigate the disability that the handler has. The dogs can assist at home, in public, or both. Even when certified, there are still some places where the dog is not allowed, such as private homes, churches, public schools as a visitor, and also non-public areas, such as operating theaters, food preparation, where general public is not allowed, so therefore a service dog would not be allowed. A helper dog, which is a sort of a subset of an assistance dog or service dog, is a dog that performs service tasks in your home but has no public access. The tasks may or may not relate to your specific disability. This is basically a pet that has been trained to do service tasks. A therapy dog is very different. A therapy dog is a dog that's trained typically by an organization that accompanies her handler to group settings such as care homes, hospitals, and schools. Therapy dogs have no public access rights and go into facilities with special permission. A therapy dog interacts with other people one-on-one, and some examples are trauma dogs like at 9/11 Ground Zero in the States, stress dogs at airports. Universities are also using them during exam times. Reading to children are other therapy dog uses. An emotional support dog is not actually recognized in British Columbia. It is an untrained, untested pet dog who provides comfort to the person. They are recognized by regional and international airlines and in the United States for tenancy rights, but not in British Columbia. Let's take a look at what the appearance and behavior of a trained service dog should be when it is in public. It should be clean and well groomed. It should not emit offensive odors. It should be healthy, relaxed but aware. Tucked out of the way when at rest, they do not sit on furniture, and in fact, most people shouldn't even know that they're there until it's time to leave. They must wear a leash, a guide harness, or a mobility harness. And they may or may not be wearing an identification vest or cape. The behavior includes responding quickly and reliably to all handler requests, walking close on a loose leash within 18 inches in most cases, settles near handler out of the way of others, ignores other people and animals, ignores other distractions, and not easily startled nor reactive. The dog is under leash and verbal control of the handler at all times. The dog also potties on cue where and when the handler indicates. A service dog is trained to do tasks that mitigate your specific disability, which may also be more than one disability type. The handler, of course, is the part of the team that can communicate with other people. The handler needs to be able to take care of the dog's physical, emotional, and social needs and safety, both at home and in public. They must be able to physically control the dog and be able to communicate with the public. A really large part of having a service dog is the education role. Whether or not you want to take it on, it is part of having a service dog. The handler must also be able to interact calmly with retailers, transportation and accommodation providers, and demonstrate their knowledge of their rights and responsibilities as a service dog handler. If the primary handler has disabilities that do not allow them to do above, such as a child who has autism, they need to be accompanied by a secondary adult handler who can. In some cases, the handler may be asked to remove a dog, even if it's certified, if the dog causes a disturbance. For example, it barks and it can't settle, if the dog solicits food or attention, if the dog poses a threat to other members of the public, for example, shows protectiveness, aggression, or is overexcited, causes damage to property, or is not house trained. As long as the retailer or transportation provider has asked the handler to deal with the situation first and there is no improvement. If your dog has already been trained and certified by an ADI, Assistance Dogs International, or IGDF, International Guide Dog Federation, accredited organization, you can apply for a BC certificate. If the dog has been trained by yourself, a trainer, or another organization that is not ADI or IGDF accredited, then it is recommended to fill out the forms and have an in-person assessment completed. Getting certified shows that you and your dog as a team meet the minimum provincial standard that keeps the public safe. Retailers, accommodation providers, etc. can ask to see the provincial certificate, which is a laminated card, to verify that your dog is a service dog, even if your dog has not caused a disturbance. If your dog is not BC certified, they can ask you to leave. You could also face a process to prove your dog is trained to the same level as the provincial standards. This weeds the fraudulent dogs from a legitimate service dog. Those found guilty of fraud can be charged up to $3,000 in a fine and get a criminal record. This process can cause emotional stress and use time and money for everyone involved. If you are bringing a trained service dog in from outside of the province or country, you will want to contact the ministry and ask them if your dog qualifies for public access. An important note about online service dog certification. There are thousands of websites that will try to sell you a service dog certificate that they claim will give you public access rights. They are all taking your money. To be a valid assessment in British Columbia for owner-trained dogs, the test must be done in person with both you and your dog, have medical forms filled out by a BC medical team, the test carried out by Justice Institute, and the laminated certificate is issued by the province of British Columbia. Unless all four of these conditions are met, then it is not a valid certificate. So what is the process of an owner-trained dog getting certified in British Columbia? If you go to the BC government website, Human Rights Guide Animals, there are 2 forms that you can fill out to get an assessment date. You must fill out a medical form filled out by your BC doctor or nurse practitioner to verify that you have a condition that will benefit from having a fully trained service dog to assist in daily living. You must list the tasks your dog is trained to do in order to mitigate your disability. You must also list the training that has been done. It's very helpful if you've kept the journal, both in writing and also in videotape, and a record of all receipts for classes, etc. that you have taken. One of the forms is filled out by your vet stating that your dog has been spayed or neutered. And of course, you must submit the fees. The Justice Institute, who administers the test, will contact you to set up a location and a date for the in-person assessment. This date may be a month into the future. The dog and handler team must pass all 40 of the points of assessment. Choke chains, prong collars or pinch collars, and electronic collars and food are not allowed to be used during the test to control the dog. This is the BC Guide and Service Dog Assessment Test that is given by the Province of British Columbia for service and guide dogs. And it gives a little bit about the background of the test. It gives a list of the 40 criterion that they're looking for, and then it specifically breaks down each one. So they describe each task and also whether the dog passes or fails and some additional comments. So keep in mind, this is a minimum for the dogs to do, and we want to train beyond this point, but this is just how the province assesses that your dog is safe in public. If your team passes, the ministry will mail the handler a laminated card that needs to be carried with you anytime your dog is with you in public. The dog is not legal until after you receive the laminated tag in the mail. And the certificate needs to be renewed every 2 years. It's a written renewal. You don't have to do another in-person assessment. What if my dog makes mistakes during the test? Well, the assessors are not expecting a robot. They can ask you to repeat the behavior, or perhaps if, such as at the beginning of the test, say your dog can't sit or lay down because it's sensing that you're stressed, they will simply ask you to re-cue the dog to sit or down at a later time during the test once your stress has been reduced. They are there to see how the 2 of you work together, not to trip you up. If the team fails, you must reapply for certification at a later date and resubmit the fees. If your dog has fear, anxiety, including separation anxiety, shows protective behaviors or aggression, is overexcited during greetings, or has any health issues, he will not pass. And unless you can work him through all of the above issues and be able to pass the assessment test, he is best used as an in-home helper dog only. How long does it take to train a dog to certification? If you start with a well-bred young puppy, approximately 2 to 3 years of age. Most common service dog breeds are slow maturing emotionally, socially, and physically. Some lines take longer to mature than others. If the handler has to learn as you go, that slows the process too. If the handler has significant health issues or a busy family life, that also slows the process. Or if you don't have access to a support system or the resources for training, that could take more time and effort. So realistically, I tell everybody not to expect to have their dog ready for certification until approximately 2.5 to 3 years of age. If you are starting with an adult dog, assuming the dog has no emotional issues or unwanted behaviors or trauma to overcome, and already has some basic behaviors and learning in place, and you are training regularly, the dog should be ready in approximately 6 months of training. It is best to start with a healthy dog between 2 and 5 years of age with a sound temperament and has already been socialized to public places, people, and animals. A dog that is a rehabilitation project will cost you time, money, and emotional energy and may never make it to the certification stage. One of the key things that's overlooked by owner trainers is that they themselves need a support system. It takes a community to raise a service dog. You'll need to specifically identify who will take on these roles and what they will do for the course of the dog's lifetime. Start with your family and housemates. It's important that you have their support, otherwise they can sabotage the process. Your landlord needs to be apprised as to what your plans are, and it's a good idea to get something in writing from the landlord. Owner-trained dog is not protected by any tenancy rights until after he is certified. So this is why it's so important to get your landlord involved early. You'll need a caregiver to take care of your dog's daily needs if you're unable to. You'll also need extended emergency dog care if you're incapacitated at home or in the hospital. You'll need training helpers or partners to help you with distractions, or also just to help you train in general. If you have caregivers, you'll need to make sure that they're on board and also willing to use the same training methodologies that you want them to use. You'll need a professional trainer on board to help you with overall training structure, generalizing behaviors, for public access, and problem-solving issues that come up. A veterinarian, and veterinarians are particularly important for mobility dogs and dogs that are physically stressed, but your service dog also needs to visit your veterinarian on a regular basis, including a health check at 2 years of age, doing hip scans and elbow scans before your dog even starts working as a service dog. You'll need access to a veterinary behaviorist if your dog suffers any sort of trauma, and that can take all kinds of unpredicted forms. You'll need your medical doctor on board, not only for bringing your dog into their office, but also for keeping updates on your health conditions. And also any other team members like psychiatrists, therapists, counselors, and physiotherapists. They all need to be on board with you having a service dog and learning how they can help you not only train the dog, but also what role the dog may take on in helping you with mitigating your disabilities. So what kinds of tasks can service dogs and helper dogs do to help their person? Well, there's a wide variety. First, you need to identify your needs. What specific disabilities do you have, and what is it that the dog can physically do to help you mitigate those disabilities? Depending on what they are, they could be anything from hearing alerts to alerting to diabetic lows and highs, retrieving dropped items, getting snacks or medication, provide aftercare for seizures, find a family member, alert the caregiver that a person is on the move, and also smoke detection. These are some Alzheimer's tasks. Turn on lights before you enter a room, help with balance, forward momentum for walking. Alert when a person is calling your name or a car is coming up behind you, if you happen to be hard of hearing. Detect allergens and gluten in foods and the environment. Provide deep pressure therapy for stressful situations. Or lead you or a family member home. Mobility dogs can help stabilize you on stairs, open and shut doors, load and unload laundry. What other tasks can a service dog do? Basically, it's unlimited, and it really is up to you to be creative to find out how your dog can help you. However, you need to know that providing comfort is not considered a task, nor are self-taught tasks like natural seizure alerts or diabetic alerts. All tasks must be able to be cued at any time. In this section, my dogs Jessie and Lucy are going to demonstrate some service dog tasks for you. It is important to note that any service dog can be taught to do a variety of tasks for a variety of medical conditions, not just one. In British Columbia, all service dogs are just called service dogs, no matter what kind of tasks that they do. The handler does not have to identify that the dog is a diabetic alert dog or seizure response dog, for example. In this clip, Lucy demonstrates some mobility tasks. If the handler does not have the strength or flexibility to bend over, the dog can pick up objects and present them above the ground. These same tasks can be used by someone who gets dizzy when bending over as well.
Give me a shoe. Thank you. Get in one. Thank you. Good job. Good job. And sit. Get the leash. Thank you. Good job. Okay, let's go.
Lucy's reward for doing these tasks is going outside. The next task is a light brace that helps provide just enough stability for the person to stand up on their own. Very little pressure is actually put on the dog's shoulder. Most of the weight is on the person's feet, knees, and the hand on the floor. This prevents the dog from getting hurt structurally. Lucy is too small for this task for me, so it's for demonstration purposes only.
Touch. Brace.
Here she is learning how to do an anxiety alert or interrupting a self-harming scratching behavior. Note that she only does the alert when I am doing the trigger behavior. If I stop, so does she. Good! Good job. For someone with weak or arthritic hands, Jessie demonstrates picking up a small flat object off the floor and placing it in my hand. She also picks up dropped objects, in this case a glove, and places them within reach.
Thank you. Good job. Good job, Jess. Thank you. Thank you. Good girl. What a girl.
She unloads the dryer and pulls the basket to another room.
Jessie, put it away. Get another one. Get another one. Okay. Can you cut? Good girl.
For someone who has difficulty hearing, the dog can be taught a sound alert to a variety of sounds. This two-way alert tells the handler that someone is knocking, and the dog takes her to the source of the sound behind the camera.
Yes, where is it? Yes!
Let's discuss a little bit about the laws in British Columbia. If you have passed the service dog assessment and you are not carrying the BC-issued laminated card, you can be asked to leave by retailers, transportation providers, and accommodation providers, or they can also refuse the service. If your dog causes a disturbance, even if it is BC certified, and you do not rectify the situation, you can be legally asked to remove your dog. However, members of the general public cannot ask a handler to remove their dog, even if they're suspected to be fraudulent. They need to talk to a staff member or manager of a retail or accommodation provider. Most situations with certified service dogs arise from a lack of knowledge on the part of the members of the public, retail, transportation, and accommodation providers. For example, it's illegal to interfere with a working service dog, or certified service dogs cannot be barred from access due to allergies or religious beliefs. Most situations can be dealt with by the handler taking on an educational role and speaking with the manager of the site. If a situation escalates and communication stops between a service dog handler and a retailer, transportation, or accommodation provider, each can fill out a complaint form with the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General. Here's a sample copy of that form. piece of information that owner-trained service dogs need to know is that if their dog is not yet certified, it is not protected under British Columbia law for transportation, accommodation, or retail access. They are subject to the same regulations as pets. They must pay pet damage deposits, cleaning fees, daily charges in the case of hotels, until they are certified. Once they are certified, they are exempt from all of those fees. Okay, so that summarizes the key points that owner trainers need to know about service dogs in British Columbia. How do you get your dog trained? You can train it yourself if you feel you have the knowledge. You can get support from a local trainer, or you can train your dog online. If this webinar has been useful to you, then join us in person in Nanaimo or online at servicedogtraininginstitute.ca. There's tons of free information, and you can access our online classes, Skype support, and more webinars. See you soon!